This week on the Destination Angler,
we look at it different than non-tribals. Non-tribals, they look at it like it's food or sport or something, but we look at it like they're part of us because they are. We feel for them, we care for them, and it's it's a spiritual connection when we fish. We pray with our fish. We pray when we have our ceremony. So it's so much more spiritual when we say we're on the river. We speak for our fish. We don't just speak for ourselves. We speak for our animals, our plants.
Welcome to the Destination Angler Podcast, the podcast for anglers who travel. And I'm your host, Steve Haigh. We go right to the source, the local guides and experts, to build your knowledge of top fishing locations around North America. It's a big world out there. Now go and fish it.
I'm going away for a while, but I'll be back soon. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Hey anglers, welcome back to another episode of the Destination Angler, brought to you by Trout Routes, the #1 fishing app, helping you find new trout waters so you spend less time on the road and more time doing what you love, trout fishing. Don't leave home without it. And by Outfishers, the trusted source for pre-owned fly rods. That's outfishers.com. And by Anglers Coffee, perfecting the coffee experience for the fly fishing community and anglers everywhere with small batch coffee delivered to your doorstep. It's darn near perfect. Coming up on the Destination Angler, the world-famous Galton River, where we explore the upper section starting in Yellowstone all the way down through Bozeman and beyond. And be sure to backcast to catch the last episode of the Destination Angler on the Yakima River with Joe Roeder, Red's Fly Shop. Let me tell you, this river is a real gem and needs to be on every angler's bucket list. Joe gives us a masterclass on this fairly technical fishery. Hey, you won't want to miss these shows. And I say this on every show, please be sure to tell a buddy about the podcast, and you must be doing it because the Destination Angler continues to grow by leaps and bounds. So thank you very much for listening. And today our destination is the famed Deschutes River with Elke and Alysia Littleleaf of Littleleaf Guide Service. Considered one of the premier fisheries in the Pacific Northwest, the Deschutes is the largest spring-fed river in America, famed for incredible insect hatches, dense trout populations, and fast growth rates. Starting in the Cascades, it flows through mountain forests, rugged canyons, and high desert on its 250-mile journey to the Columbia, and is fed by famous tributaries like the Metolius River and Crooked Creek. Elke and Alysia are part of the Warm Springs Wasco reservation and just so happen to be the only Native American fly fishing guide couple in America. Elke has been fishing this river for 47 years and together have been guiding the 35-mile private tribal side of the river for 12 years. They've appeared on the Fly Rod Chronicles, Seasons on the Fly, and Trout TV, plus have been featured in several magazine articles, videos, and podcasts. Here they give us an inside look at the tribal side of the river, top hatches, flies, and techniques, and a unique perspective on Native American life and stories of huge bull trout, Sacajawea, Chief Joseph, and their fight for conservation. So let's dig in. Welcome to the show, Elke and Alysia.
Hi.
All right, good to have you. Well, as I always say, I am super excited to do a show on the Deschutes, and I want to make sure I'm saying that right, because everywhere I hear people say the Deschutes, but you guys say the Deschutes. I just want to be sure I'm saying it the right way. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, very good. I figure if people from Central Oregon are listening, they're going to hear us say it the right way. You know, back in June when we first talked, I was really fascinated by your story, and one of the things that you mentioned was that you have pet wolves. And I kind of wanted to hear about that. Alysia, maybe you could talk a little bit about your pet wolves.
Yes, these special rare hybrid breeds, they're quite a handful, big love bugs, and it's a pretty rare and unique opportunity to have some and be in their lives and take care of them. It's on a whole nother level of, I don't know. I don't even know what wording to say for this. It brought out a lot of the maternal instincts and everything for myself as a mother. So it's like we're crazy for pet wolf mom parents now, ain't dad. It's kind of funny.
Okay. How many pet wolves do you have?
We have 10.
Okay. Man, and you say they're hybrids, so they're a cross between a wolf and a what?
German Shepherd and Husky.
Malamute.
And Malamute, yes.
And Malamute. And I mean, Elke, are they always friendly? What do you think?
Oh, they're definitely friendly. They're just like pretty much like a dog, but they're definitely smarter than a dog, and they're more so like human children. You know, when you get them, you got to put a lot of bond time to them, and you know, so they can get used to you. And you can't tie them up. You know, they're like I said, they're not like a dog. If you tie them up, causes issues. It makes them angry, upset, and there's also a way too that if you feed them raw food, it changes their temperament and makes it a little bit more aggressive. So we don't feed our dogs raw meat. We just feed them high protein food, so it keeps them way calmer. And
Really?
yeah, it's a really neat experience. We're still learning about them, and you know, a lot of people don't realize, but wolves are a big part of our ecosystem for along the rivers for thousands of years. They'd go hunt and carry the game along the rivers and spread out the nutrients, and they used to fish too as well. People don't realize that they used to go out and get salmon and steelhead, you know, on their own on the rivers, and just like bears, they'd do the same thing. They'd actually be following the bears.
Yeah.
The old days, that's how they used to get a lot of the salmon, because we had a lot of grizzlies all along the Columbia and Maine, even the Deschutes all the way down to California. You know, we used to have a lot of grizzly bears, so wolves are a big part of it.
Yeah, that's neat. Do you still have black bears out there?
Yes,
Oh,
we
yes.
do.
And wolves, the wolves have lots of energy, so you got to have, you know, be fully committed and whatnot to these really rare breeds. And we take them out to, you know, spring runoff, out in the high lakes to go. But they don't necessarily get a bath, but they're getting bathed in there, and they groom themselves, and it's just cool because they love to run around, and they'll come back to us and don't take off.
So anyway, we're part-time breeders. We kind of helped a friend out that wasn't doing very well. She injured herself beyond her ability to take care of them. So me and Alicia kind of reached out and helped. So we kind of became breeders / fly guides.
There you go. Well, something to do in your spare time.
Yeah, we're going to be some wolfy people for a while. Maybe I'll be using some of their furs to tie flies as well.
Oh, man. How about that? I'm curious, how many pounds of meat do you feed them a week?
They go right now. They're probably eating about 120 pounds a week, so that ain't too bad. And they're only half grown. They're like 5 months old now.
Oh, no kidding. This is new for you then. Okay. I got you.
Yep.
Well, good luck with your wolves. That's fascinating. Let's talk about fishing in your part of Oregon, kind of the Central Oregon area. Okay, I'll start with you. Can you kind of give me a high level of, you know, what are the major fishing opportunities in your neck of the woods?
Oh, we got quite a bit on the Deschutes. It's a huge river. A lot of people aren't used to this kind of river, and we get people from all over the U.S., even outside of the U.S. And when they come to our river, they're kind of like in awe and really absolutely have no idea how to fish it. So they're always game and receptive to learn our styles and ways. So
okay,
for our fishing techniques, we do multiple things like spey rod. You could do spin casting from dry flies to nymphs. You could target salmon, steelhead, red side, rainbow. There's a few bull trout in the Deschutes as well, and they're starting to become more and more for a population because it's becoming more and more for people to land them.
Oh, good. What about, you know, besides the Deschutes, what else can people fish in your area? Like the tributaries, some of the lakes. What else have you got in that area?
Oh, Central Oregon is like, it's the hub for fishing, for all kinds of fishing. There's so many. We're surrounded by lakes and rivers. Our reservation borders the Deschutes River all the way down to Centustus, all the way down to Metolius River, and then outside of our reservation, you go farther down and you'll run into the lower Deschutes. You'll run into Crooked River, Prineville area. It's all around us. There's so many different areas for anything, for biking, hiking, everything. Whatever you want, Central Oregon has it.
All right. I did a show on the Metolius, and that's how I actually got your name. John Kraft is my number one show right now, believe it or not, the Metolius River with John. And he came and fished with you guys.
Yep, John, he's pretty well known. He came to fish with my wife, actually.
Yeah, very good. Did he behave, Alysia?
Well, his wife was there to keep him in check. No, just kidding.
Okay, here we go. All right.
It was 2 women and 1 man. No.
Yeah, there you go. You took them both on.
It was cool and awesome because he gave me a few of his flies, and it was the Clarkstone, the mother one, because it had an egg sac, and then Clarky Jr. That's what he called it. And they're like these little bullet heads, but like a Clarkstone, and they were cute and they worked. I caught some fish on them. So
how about that?
It's a blessing to have people like that. You know, when you have friends like John and, you know, clients and stuff, you're always learning something from them. Even though they come fish with you, sometimes you'll learn something from, you know, them good people.
Yeah, he's a fishy dude, that's for sure. He spends a lot of time, you know, on a river, that's for sure. But anyway, so have you fished Crooked Creek very much yourselves?
A few times, yes.
Okay, tell me about that river.
I don't fish too much anymore just because probably the last 5 years, the population in Central Oregon has gone crazy. And I've seen our own river here on the Deschutes just dramatically increase in population for sportsmen and fishermen. I mean, from rafters, kayakers, you name it.
Yeah, I've kind of heard that. Okay, what is Crooked Creek like? Can you describe that a little bit for us?
It's a smaller creek. It's a beautiful creek. I'd say recommend to fish it in April. It's a really good creek for dries, like mayflies and yellow sallies, grasshoppers. It's pretty much anything will go in that creek as long as the flows are good. So,
okay,
you know, like other parts of the U.S., we're kind of like having little drought issues. So a lot of water levels are dramatically dropping in a lot of areas.
Okay. What is the climate like out there?
We've been in the hundreds the past couple weeks. So it's been really, really hot. But at least we're not seeing fires like the previous years.
Oh man, that's great to hear.
Yes, it's like every 4 or 5 years, it would be so bad. Me and Alicia would just try to go escape to the coast or something.
Yeah, right. All right. So Alysia, your turn. Can you help the listeners understand, like, what is it about the Deschutes that makes it just so special and so unique?
Oh, many things. Just from it having so many vistas out here, and we have, you know, on the tribal side, we have a bunch of wild horses because it's open range, and a lot of people will love the videos that we post because we'll post some of the horses running, you know, alongside the river. But there's just so much wildlife, whether it's the bald eagles or the goldens or the ospreys are like seagulls here during the spring. So during the salmon fly hatch, cool. They're just on every post and catching fish right along with you. So there's so many things that draws people down here that, you know, it's a magical area, and it's what people call, you know, God's country. You know, you just come and you unwind and let go when you're here and you're on the river, whether you're enjoying it just to float down it and have a scenic tour, or whether you're drift and fishing or you're doing a walk and wade. You know, everyone's to each their own. Some people will come and read a book, you know, float down the river, and it's just, like I said, it's river therapy. To each their own on what they want to do, but it's an amazing opportunity that we have to be able to help people come dial into that and let go of everything else here on the Deschutes. It's a magical place.
Yeah, thank goodness you're doing that, you know, giving people a lot of joy by taking them down the Deschutes. Hey anglers, if you're like me, you're always on the hunt for new trout streams to explore, but finding these hidden gems can be challenging. Well, not anymore, because there's a new app I highly recommend called Trout Routes. Trout Routes has mapped out every trout stream by state with detailed access maps for every stream. They have over 15 different map layers with hundreds of thousands of access points, color-coded stream ratings, public land, and more. Just this spring, I was in the driftless region of Wisconsin, and man, was it awesome to have the Trout Routes app on my phone to help us do some exploring. Trout Routes made it so easy to find new water and access points that we never would have known about. They also have local fly shops, the ability to take notes, and even local stream regulations, and you can download maps for offline use as well. Today, Trout Routes covers 25,000 trout streams in 33 states, and they just added Arizona, New Mexico, and Arkansas, with Utah and New York coming soon. So if you have an upcoming trip or are looking to explore nearby streams, I suggest you check out Trout Routes today on your Apple or Android phone. Don't leave home without it. Hey folks, super excited to have a new sponsor on the show. They're called Outfishers, and they buy and sell pre-owned fly rods at a discount. They have all the leading brands such as Sage, Hardy, Scott, Orvis, Loomis, Winston, and more. And what I really love about these guys is they have thought of everything so you can buy with confidence. First, they certify every rod with a 100-point inspection. Then they clean, test, and rate each rod on a 1 to 10 scale. Then they photograph every rod so you know exactly what you're getting before you buy, including any chips, scratches, or scuffs. And what's really cool is they offer a lifetime warranty and a 30-day returns policy with free shipping. So if you don't like your rod for any reason, you can return it within 30 days, no questions asked. Sounds like a pretty cool idea to me, so head on over to outfishers.com to check them out. And tell them Steve from the Destination Angler sent you. That's outfishers.com, the source for pre-owned fly rods. Alysia, maybe could you give us kind of an overview of the Deschutes? Like, where does it start? Where does it flow? Kind of like, what's the character of the water? Is it going from the top to the bottom? That kind of thing. What are the main sections anglers should really be thinking about?
So the Deschutes, a lot of people will ask these questions, and I'm so isolated on the tribal side that I don't really fish outside of it. So I don't fish the upper Deschutes that's up there in Bend and all up above there where it's located, where it starts and begins. And and I'm kind of spoiled in that, like I don't fish the Paulina or anything like that. I can the fall.
It's fed from multiple rivers, like the Metolius. It's a spring-fed river that comes straight out of the ground, so that's like one of the main tributaries that feeds the Deschutes.
Right. So it starts in the Cascades. It flows through forest land, right? And then do you hit some reservoirs along the way? Is it a tailwater then?
It hits the Lake Billy Chinook and some Testis, and then goes down to Pelton, and that's where we're located, is right under the Pelton Dam.
Big bull trout country.
Yes.
Okay.
And then up in the arm of the Metolius, there's lots of big bull trout, and we can't personally guide there, but we can personally fish there as tribal members. So when you see our big old bull trout pictures, we're personally fishing for them. We have many clients tell us they wish they can go, and we're like, oh, we wish we could guide up there, but we can't.
And you're talking, when you're down below Pelton Dam, is that considered the lower Deschutes?
Yes.
All right. Wait, what can you tell me about the middle section? Maybe you haven't fished a lot, but you know a little bit about the middle section and can tell anglers about that?
They have brown trout up above us, and a lot of people will target the browns. And, of course, they have the red band. A lot of people will refer to the red band as red sides here. It's kind of a local term. So if you hear us say red band or red side, we're talking about the same species.
It's a native.
Yeah, a subspecies of the rainbow trout. And the rainbow is actually a cousin to the red band. So, but the red band will have a real pronounced red band from its cheek all the way down to its anal gland. So.
Yeah, beautiful fish. Well, Elke, how about maybe walk us through the tribal side or the tribal waters there that you guys fish? You probably know it like the back of your hand. Can you give us kind of an overview of what that's like?
We're blessed to have 35 plus private miles of river access. So our reservation on the Deschutes, it's like an invisible line in the middle of the river. So all to the left side, including the islands, will be all tribal owned. And
Okay.
we do have a section where non-tribals could fish, and you could buy a permit. It's about 5 or 6 miles. It's about Trout Creek Campground, and there's like 2 gates. And we don't guide in that section, but non-tribals do. But outside of that, we guide all the way down past Whitehorse. So we have quite a few areas, and it's all different areas. So it's really important that we know our clients' abilities, because not everybody can handle these areas. I mean, some areas are like hilly, really grassy, a lot of algae, so it requires like have good studs and stuff like that.
Okay.
So
And a wait-in staff.
yeah, and a waiting staff.
Sorry, I just the wait-in staff. I always try to tell people is a Deschutes thing. It's not an age thing. I'm only 38 and I need my wait-in staff. There's some big old rocks in here, and you just need that.
It's rough country. It's high desert, so it's really rocky, volcanic areas. So you could really get hurt if you don't have the right equipment and know what you're doing. That's for sure.
Okay. You're floating, but you have to, by law, you have to get out and wade fish. Is that correct?
Yes, we do 2 ways. We have a 4x4 shuttle, which we pick up our clients. We'll meet them at a spot, we'll pick them up, and then we'll take them along the river, and we'll drive spot to spot all day long. And then our drift boat is we'll meet them and pick them up as well, and then we'll go to our put-in spot, which is called Annie's Dick, and then we'll take out at an area called Whiskey's Dick, which is about 16 mile float.
Okay. Oh, it's a big float. Yeah.
Yes. So I always I have areas that are set, like I said, for preference of our clients' abilities. So we always make sure we don't throw anybody in a in bad areas they can't handle.
And when you're talking about client abilities, are you talking about fishing techniques? It sounds more like you're talking about wading ability. Is that right?
Yes, age factors, definitely age, experience. We don't want to have nobody drown or get hurt, so we always try to put them in waters where we know that they could be able to handle. And we also take people. We do fish them on our drift boat as well if they're like handicapped. They have their doctor's excuse, then we on our Provati, we could take them on that so they could fish off the boat as well.
It's called a doctor's endorsement on your ODWF license. But yes.
All right. Yeah, but for the most part, you're wade fishing and just getting into the river either by boat or by 4-wheel or something.
Correct.
Okay. That's cool. So if I'm floating this tribal land, am I seeing buildings and houses, or is it pretty remote?
You'll see one set of house or maybe 2 houses. That's about it. A few here and there, but other than that, it's remote. Once you get past South Junction, you'll see some houses on a non-tribal side, which is called
Cascella Farm.
Other than that, it's just all wide open desert.
Huh, interesting. And am I down in a canyon on the tribal? Because I know there's a big canyon somewhere along this, right? I read there's a 2,000-foot canyon somewhere here.
Yes, it gets pretty deep all the way down through there. Basalt canyon, high rock walls.
Okay. And how wide is the river? What are the flows, that kind of thing, through your sections?
I think we average about 3,700 CFS. And then
okay, good size.
And it's but at least close to a football field wide in some areas.
Oh, no kidding. Okay. So you've got a lot of room. Are you pretty much bank fishing, or are you finding when the flows, drop a little bit? Are you fishing like some rock structures, out towards the middle of the river?
Oh, so it depends. That's another thing. It depends on a client's preference, what they're capable of doing. If they're dry flies, and we have different areas to take them for dries. They're nymph fish, and we'll take them in the middle. We'll take them at the end of riffles. If they're spey fishermen, same thing. Riffles hit the embankments.
Okay.
with the higher traffic, it changed like a lot of things with the population of people. It changed our dynamics, how we used to steelhead fish, because 8-10 years ago, we hardly had any boat traffic. So you used to be able to go down the river, walk along the shore, and you'd see all the steelhead laying behind rocks. And now it's not even like that. There's so many boaters, so all the steelhead are going to be like along the embankments.
You mean they're being driven from their cover in the middle of the river by the boats going over their heads? Is that what you mean?
Yep. So I noticed that change about 8 years, 9, close to 10 years now.
Huh. Hey anglers, are you looking for a darn near perfect cup of coffee to start your day? Then do yourself a favor and check out anglerscoffee.com. That's right, Anglers Coffee is made by anglers for anglers, delivered to your doorstep, one batch at a time. They start with the very best coffee beans selected for their great flavor and responsible growing methods. Then each batch is roasted fresh daily. The result is a wide selection of roast styles that will satisfy the most discerning coffee lover. And now you can enjoy Angler's Coffee anywhere, anytime with the Dry Dropper single-serving coffee in a tea bag. Just add water. And this isn't your mother's instant coffee. It's a single serving of carefully dark-roasted, fresh ground and nitro-sealed coffee. A percentage of each sale goes to some great nonprofit organizations that directly impact the fly fishing community. So head on over to anglerscoffee.com to check out their great selection of coffee and the organizations they support. If you're not 100% satisfied, they'll give you your money back, no questions asked. That's Angler's Coffee. It's darn near perfect. Now, if I'm a rafter or a boater, can I float any of that river, or do I have to stay over on the non-tribal side just if I'm floating, not fishing?
Yeah, you'd have to stay over in the middle. You know, you can't ever even dock on the tribal side either. So.
Okay. All right. And so I'm guessing what the advantages are to, fishing with you guys on the tribal side. Is the fishing better over there? What would you say the big pluses are to fishing on the tribal side?
Of course it's going to be better because, for one, the way the sun sets, it puts more shade on our side of the river and it's less pressured. So, yes, the best fishing's on our side. So we're always telling people the best side is the west side, kind of like our logo.
The west side.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're on the west bank and the public access is the east bank.
Okay. And how is public access up and down the river?
Till you get to Trout Dry Creek Campground, like where the non-tribal is, there's a gate there. So say like if you wanted to fish, you can't drive your car. You have to park at the gate and walk that entire 5 miles or whatever. Or drift it, which is Trout Creek. There's another boat ramp that's right past it, about 5-6 mile drift.
The typical float on the east bank is the put-in is from the Warm Springs to the Trout Creek, and that's what, a 5 or 6 mile float, give or take, for them.
Maybe 13.
Oh, I didn't think it was that much, but okay. So yeah, but the main float we heard on the east bank is from the Warm Springs boat ramp to Trout Creek.
Okay.
Or they're committed to going down to Maupin,
yeah.
And that's like a 2 or 3 day float overnight.
You don't want to go that far. That's past White Horse Rapids.
You're hitting the class 4 rapids and a few more, on the way.
So people don't do that. Okay.
Unless you're, down for that raft and all that.
Yeah, we don't drift down the White Horse. We'll drive around it with our 4x4s, and we actually go to farther country on our 4x4s. You get to see more scenery.
Yeah, with the shuttle tour. We call it the shuttle or the walk-in way, and it just gets beautiful the further you go down the res. Yeah.
So you're kind of like just on an adventure with us. You get to do a little 4x4 and get to see horses, deer, bear, whatever they got. We got cougar and wolves now, so and big.
Oh, you do?
Sheep. Yep. Yeah, the wolves been down here. Not our wolves, but some other wolves been down here.
He means
from,
wild ones now.
Idaho. So they've been living down here on our res. So it's pretty cool. I found 4 kills last year along the river. One was a female bighorn sheep and 3 bucks. They were killed by a wolf pack, and they're right by along the river, spreading their nutrients, doing their job.
No kidding. Okay. Man, you think those bighorns could take on a wolf, but maybe not a pack, huh?
So when I first found that bighorn sheep, I had 3 clients with me, and that was during the salmon fly hatch. And I walk ahead, make sure I scout the trails, make sure there's no rattlesnakes for them, and I always point out like poison ivy and stuff like that. Well, I came across that skeleton of that female bighorn sheep, and it was like coming upon a museum skeleton. It was perfectly clean, like meticulously picked of meat. The only thing I noticed was missing was a hoof, and that signified a canine trait to me. And sure enough, I looked around, I found a wolf track. So 3 of them packed that bighorn sheep down there by the river and ate it.
Oh, no kidding. And a wolf will eat the hooves? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because it's full of calcium.
Wow, that's cool. How are the steelhead and the salmon runs?
Well, we finally have a up rebound because the past 2 years we'd got shut off on the Deschutes, first time ever for a low record runs of our native steelhead. So it was a really sad thing because that was probably 60% of our business is the steelhead trips, because that's from September till winter. We're the only guide service too that could fish year round on the Deschutes because our tribes, they regulate the population, and then with our guide service, we extend the we extend our steelhead season, and we're taking out the hatchery because they're invasive on the river, so we're doing a good thing.
Okay.
Considering they're our biologists.
Yeah. And you're hearing that this year you'll be able to steelhead fish again.
Yeah, it's happening again. The numbers increased finally. So we've got the thumb up this year.
Good to hear that. My goodness. Well, I'm curious, how well can you do as a trout fisherman on the river? If you have, what's a banner day? What's kind of an average day, would you say?
Well, it depends on the person's will to fish, their experience. We've had probably 95% of our clients with no skills, so we got kind of thrown to the wolves, and we got used to teaching people, first timers, how to get out there, men, women, children, whatever. We could get them all in the fish. They might not land them sometimes, but they get that opportunity to cast, hook up, and see their mistakes. We don't make them feel like they're at a loss or something. We always point out what they could do and how to improve it, and just encourage them.
Interesting. So if you have some experienced anglers, how well can you do?
Oh, dude, like very well. I mean, I think it's like 3,500 fish per square mile. So just like me and my wife, we went out a couple days ago and fished, and we slaughtered her on big fish. We only fished maybe 4 hours. I think we probably had like 8 or 10 fish, and the smallest ones were probably like 16 inches, and a couple of them were 21, 22, and then I even hooked into a coho. I hooked into a coho. I had it on for 6 minutes on my 6-weight, and then it spit my hook. Yeah.
Man, that's some good fishing. That's fantastic.
But if you get out there, a young buck, you could get out there and get 20, 50 fish, all day long if you wanted.
Okay. And tell me about, you kind of walk me through the seasons there, what are the major hatches you have out there that anglers should be aware of?
Our number one hatch is the salmon fly, which is in mid-May, mid-June. Then that's followed by the caddis. We have the mayfly. I think we have like some of the most abundant hatches in the Pacific Northwest on the Deschutes, and it's also one of the few rivers that has a year-round hatch. So even in the wintertime, we'll have hatches going on.
Interesting. So salmon flies, caddis. What are like some of the major mayfly hatches you have?
The blue-winged olives and the creamy mayflies and
green drakes. I mean, we could go on and on. There's so many varieties of flies. We even tie our own flies, so It's so many.
Even midges. Seem like midges go off all the time. Crane flies.
Okay. Crane
Mhm.
flies. All right.
And a lot of grasshoppers as well. Grasshoppers right now.
And when are you fishing crane flies?
We don't use crayfly patterns.
Crane flies.
Yeah, we don't use those patterns.
Okay. I thought Alicia mentioned those.
Oh yeah, they hatch though. They've hatched pretty well
Oh, okay.
here. Yeah, for sure.
But the fish aren't eating them, so you're not fishing with them.
It's just probably one of the few I haven't tried yet. Just like the fly the other day,
All right.
we tried. we tried a San Juan worm. I've had that thing in my fly box for years. Just out of boredom, I put it on, and first fish was what 22, 21 inches, and I had it on for 7-8 minutes, and then it spit me, and I had it barbless. And it was a pink worm, or not pink, purple. So
Okay.
And purple's like a money color on the Deschutes. Like you can't go wrong with purple. You can't go wrong with blue. You can't go wrong with green. And UV2 material in your flies. All money.
All right. What are some of your money patterns? What would you recommend for people?
Well, Elke's got a few patterns of his own. We'll make sure you send a few of those pictures in. But he ties this a salmon fly version called the Predator, and those trout just go crazy for those flies. The way he ties them, they just sit really high on top of the river, and he'll put like a really bright pink wing on them. And I mean, if I could see it, anyone could see it. You could see that wing anywhere, and if the fish see it, we all see it. You know, so it's pretty cool.
Oh man!
But
Okay.
he ties a bunch of streamers, nymphs. Elk's pretty unique. He can't tie the same fly over and over and over. He'll tie a different fly, and I'm the opposite. I could tie the same fly 100 times. You know? So,
Right.
yep. And I tie the little flies. I tie the nymphs and the emergers and the dries, just like the caddis ones and stuff. So he ties the big, and I tie the little.
That was the plan.
Okay.
'Cause I'm a big man. She's a small lady, so go figure. You know?
That's funny. And Elke, can you talk about some of the streamer patterns that you have?
Oh gosh, I probably have about 219 patterns I tested out myself,
Oh man.
and a lot of my streamer patterns, geez, they all work. I use them on our steelhead and our big huge bull trout. My favorite style is probably the more of a natural marabou and stuff like that. And then of course, like Alicia said, the UV2 materials.
Yeah, if you're willing to send some pictures of some of those, our listeners would probably love to see those.
Sure. And what I do also that's probably more unique is I always tie our new clients' flies. You know, whether they're going to be a dry fly or whether they're going to be swinging or nymphing or whatever, I'll tie them a fly, and I'll just make it up. I won't look at books, and just like how I taught myself how to tie flies, it's kind of just go in my head and get the colors. The last person I tied a fly for was Gary Lewis for his TV show. So the night before, I called it Jim's Greeny Nymph, and he caught his biggest, like 21-inch red side on it.
Very good. And when you tie a fly for a client, are you talking about sitting there in your truck, or in your boat, you tie up a fly for somebody, or what do you mean?
The night before.
The night before. Okay.
Yep.
And you show up and say, "Hey, I got a fly just for you."
Yeah. When they're rigging it up, I'll just hand it to them.
Okay. Gotcha.
Or tie it on for them.
Yeah.
And I call them Littleleaf Creations. We kind of came up with keywords for the business. So that's his fly, Littleleaf Creations.
I gotcha. And what's your setup, and what styles of fishing are you doing? I heard you talk about spey fishing, streamer fishing, some big salmon fly fishing. What's your setup for those different types of fishing, and what kinds of fishing are you doing?
Well, my eyesight ain't good so swell anymore, so for dry flies, like small flies, indicators, My style that I like taking on the river personally is like nymphing and a spey, like a micro spey. I don't, not the big, huge spey, but me and Alicia use like a 2-3 weight micro spey. And that's our go-to that we use on the Deschutes.
Okay.
And they cover a lot of sections. And on my nip setup, I'll have an indicator, and I'll have like two flies. I'll have like a big stone fly, and then I'll have it trailing whatever's biting. You know, I'll put on a copper john or something for a trailer, or a merger nymph. And then the streamers for the spey, it's probably money. That's my preferable choice on this river. It's so big, and it's just the easiest way to fish is spey fishing. And the micro from the 6-7 weight is probably the biggest you want to go on this river. And I've caught my biggest fish on the spey, the biggest trout, biggest bull trout, salmon, everything. It's just like kind of like Cracker Jack, so you don't know what you're gonna pull. But when you go with the spey and stuff, and nipping, you're going deep, so you're getting the hogs.
So tell me again, why, for people that maybe don't know a lot about spey fishing, why is spey fishing so effective for these big fish?
Yeah, spey fishing to me is probably the easiest, best to do on a Deschutes, because you cover more water, and you have more varieties of choices to whatever body of water you can have, from shallow water to deep water. Spey fishing, you could cover it with weighted line, with dry fly line. You could go with big streamers, small streamers. It's a multitude of ways, and especially for big fish, they're the easiest to fight a big fish. You could just put it on your belly, kind of like a spin fishing, and compare it to single hand. It's so much more easier. Single hand, it'll wear you out on a couple of steelhead and salmon or something on our river, but that's also what I like about the spey as well. And yeah, it's just so much water you could cover.
I always wonder with spey fishing, when you're throwing that much line out there, don't you lose line control? And how do you dry fly fish with all that line out like that? How's that work?
Well, you definitely have to know your material and what you have equipment. And as being a self-taught, I struggled in the beginnings. You know, it takes a lot of reading and stuff, and you know, to get your right line, what bodies of water you're going to work with. Because when I first started out, I was buying some wrong stuff, and my casting was like looking like noodles. So the more I read, the more questions I asked, and started having the right equipment, then my casting improved, and yeah, it's just no looking back.
So what's your setup now in that, for instance, that micro spey rod you're talking about? What do you like to use there?
I have what is it, Orvis Clearwater, and it's a 3 weight. I first bought my wife one, and I took her down to Metolius like on her birthday, and she catches like a monster. I was kind of teasing her. I was like, "You might break that down there on those big bull trout, because you know we get them up to like 37, 38 inches."
That was a challenge accepted.
Yeah, right.
So of course I gave her some of my big streamer flies, and I already knew she was going to hook up. She's like, "Fish on," and that rod was just bent. I mean, just bowed all the way down, and I'm gritting my teeth. Alicia's reels is just spooling out, and she's working it like a little pro. And pretty soon she has that bull trout coming in. Netted it. Big old fish.
Really? Oh my gosh. You got a picture of that fish, Alicia?
Yes, she has.
I kind of wanted to see that. Can you send that to me? I'd love to see that picture.
And I think it was a famous fish too. Another angler recognized that fish because half of its jaw was missing.
Oh.
His name was Brutus.
The fish is Brutus?
But
okay.
Yeah, you have that picture. Yeah, that was phenomenal. That was a good birthday. And she deserved it. She deserved that present and her new reel, everything. So it was pretty neat.
Alicia, is that your personal best fish?
Yes, one of them.
Okay. What's the biggest fish you've ever gotten out of the Deschutes, Alicia?
Well, my biggest red band was probably a 26-inch, and steelhead. We landed a couple of those Idaho runs, huh? So I can't even tell you how big that one, those
About
bees.
Good ones, though.
Yeah, those are huge. I could barely lift them, and they don't look real in the
Wow.
picture,
How'd you get that big red band? Can you tell us that story?
I was fishing my St. Croix. It was a 2-piece 6-weight, and it's really got a stiff backbone on her. So I was fishing a Jimmy Leg stonefly nymph and a copper john and a strike indicator. And I was only about 5 feet, maybe 5'2", because I don't make it that deep. I just measures how tall I am, and that's how I know how deep to go. And I just swang and in towards the embankment, and that red side hit, and she ran, and I think she ran about 6 or 7 times. I really thought I had a stillhead on, and I was screaming for elk because
We're fishing with clients.
yeah, we're fishing behind clients. They said, go ahead, fish. I'm like, no, you guys don't want us to fish. And they're like, no, go ahead, please fish behind us. Show us how it's done. I'm like, okay. So I went behind them and hooked up, and it took a while to land her, but I was screaming for elk because I knew I couldn't net her myself. And he's like, it's just a big red band. I'm like, just? And I'm like looking at him like, really? Because it was like the size of a stillhead. I was shaken with pure adrenaline. And I don't think I've landed one that big since then. But man, I love sharing that picture and that story. And it was,
That's cool.
on 8.5-pound tippet. So,
man, nice job. That's a great fish. All right, I want to shift gears because I know you folks are really good conservationists and stewards of this resource, and you're doing a lot to help people understand the resource and what conservation looks like. And I'm wondering if you could kind of talk about some of the things that you're doing and what concerns you the most about the Deschutes.
I've seen the Deschutes change drastically, and this was even before we became a guide service. I've been fishing it for 47 years straight, since I was 7 years old. So I've seen it, at its good times back then, even before we had the incident of the 96 flood, which changed the Deschutes back then too as well. Because I used to be the only kid out there from my dad that used to camp along the Deschutes in a teepee. We used to camp out there for a whole week.
Cool.
And fish, run around with my bow and arrow. So I've seen all these changes. But when me and my wife became a guide service, we started getting kind of successful. I told her, I said, Alicia, I think there's more to it for us to do. I think we're meant to be, water protectors. That's what we call ourselves.
When you talk about changes, what changes have you seen?
Well, I've seen fires change our scenery. I've seen invasive plants like the algae change. I've seen our water temp change from like the PGE selective cooling tower that changed our river. Now we're seeing a lot of our fish have like black spot disease. There's all kinds of different diseases that are on the Deschutes now that never was here before. Threats of invasive fish farther downriver. We're seeing walleye come up. We're seeing bass starting to come up. Not in the reservation yet, but farther down past like Max Canyon, the lower Deschutes near the mouth area.
The mouth of the Columbia River.
Yeah, they're coming up farther and farther. But yeah, all the scenery, everything's changing, from compared to how it used to be. It used to be so much forest, a lot more fish. I remember back in 2001, it was the last year that I used to dip. I used to dip net on the Shears Bridge in Maupin, right outside of Maupin. That was a record year. I think I caught like 32 salmon in like within 25 minutes. I probably threw back about 35 stillhead, and I was dipping one-handed, and I'd pull up like 4 or 5 salmon. There were so many salmon in stillhead. It was the most unique sight I ever seen. It felt blessed to experience and see that. And that day, I knew that it was a special day. I knew something had to happen, so I told myself that I wouldn't fish for salmon no more. If anything, I'm gonna wanted to dedicate myself to protect salmon because I knew that we would no longer see those fish days like that no more. And sure enough, the runs depleted just as I thought. And that was true today. I still haven't dip netted, at all. Our freezers, we don't have salmon, we don't have fish, we don't keep any fish. It's all catch and release. So we're true to what we say when we're water protectors. It's just in our nature, me and Alicia as being Native American, it's our fish. We look at it different than non-tribals. Non-tribals, they look at it like it's food or sport or something, but we look at it like they're part of us because they are. We feel for them, we care for them, and it's a spiritual connection when we fish. We pray with our fish. We pray when we have our ceremony. So it's so much more spiritual when we say we're on the river. We speak for our fish. We don't just speak for ourselves. We speak for our animals, our plants.
Yeah.
When we're advocates. So that's what makes me and Alicia stand out more so than other guides, is because we are Native Americans and we do speak for her. And it's just in our genes, She's from a lineage of Sacajawea, powerful people. I'm from Chief Joseph and many other chief bands.
Say more about that. So, Alysia, you're descendant from Sacajawea. And just I think most people know what that is, but that's the girl, the Lewis and Clark expedition picked up from the Mandans and brought her back. I believe she was Shoshone, right, and brought her back.
Yeah.
And you are descended from her. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and this is oral history that's being passed down that I just found out a couple of years ago because I knew I was Ute and Deschutes from my grandmother Ella Queep, and
from Nevada.
She's from the Ute Fort Duchesne area, and my uncle had informed me about us being descendants of Sacajawea and the strongest medicine man in Wyoming. So it was an honor and a privilege to find out and add on to all the other lineages I am. So
yeah, boy, that's neat. And Elke, you're descended from Chief Joseph, the famous Nez Perce Indian, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm actually from his young brother Olcott, who is a war chief and medicine man. So that's who actually is my descendant from.
Oh, no kidding. That's the connection there.
Yeah, not many people know about Olcott because Joseph was more so favored in the history books, but he was a tall dude. He was 6'2". Joseph was 6 foot. And his fighting tactics, the United States military, today they use as guerrilla warfare tactics.
Yeah, they really they gave the military a run for their money. I think it was back in the late 1870, 1877, something like that. And they outran the military for a long time, right? And finally, they gave up on the Montana border, Canadian border, maybe?
Well, they're trying to go and meet up with Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse and Chief Crowsfoot. And that's why the United States is trying to go after them so hard. Not many people knows that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they got him 40 miles from the Canadian border.
Oh, man.
And about 212 got away as well. So not all of them got caught.
Interesting. I read that Chief Joseph, they say, died of a broken heart.
Mm-hmm. Just like Geronimo, he didn't get to go home either.
Right, right. And also people, the newspapers thought he was a noble captive is the term that I saw. So there must have been something really special about that man, the way he carried himself.
Yeah, it was all about peace. With our people, everything was spiritual. So Chief Joseph, he was never a man of warfare or anything. He was a leader that helped the people decide where to go for the season. If there's going to be buffalo, if there's going to be abundance of huckleberries or roots. So it was a big responsibility, and it was never ever anything of a violent trait to our people or other people, because back then it was so much wide lands. Everybody respected their ways. They respected different areas. But I can't speak for other tribes, but yes, Josephine was very spiritual. Even his brother Olcott as well in the history books. He was more so, even more deemed as heartful in his words.
You know, I was reading it. I was fascinated by this Chief Joseph story, and I read that Chief Joseph went to Washington D.C. a few times, and he was in New York watching the Wild Wild West show with Buffalo Bill, and at that show, he met the two generals that chased him all the way up into Montana and caught him and caused all those problems for him. And apparently they stood there and they had a cordial conversation in Madison Square Garden, whatever that looked like in 1902 or whatever it was. That fascinated me. Have you heard that story?
Oh, yeah. I got one of the books, too. I read about it.
Yeah. It's just fascinating. So what does it mean today, just for people that aren't super familiar with First Nation folks, like what does it mean today to be a Native American to you?
It's hard as for my own ancestors, even today, you know, we might not be fighting physically, but we're still fighting for recognition, and we're still fighting for abundance of nature. You know, we're still fighting for our fishing rights, our hunting rights, our treaty rights. And even today, our government's still not abiding by our treaty rights, like our salmon right now on the Columbia, the Snake Rivers. That's all the government treaty. They're supposed to have our fish healthy, and it's written in all treaties for all these tribes as well. But the government ain't doing diddly about it, and they're just going through these BS court dates and turning into a politician game, which is pretty sickening because none of those guys knows anything about our natural resources. Slap all of them in the woods, in our section of the woods, they wouldn't survive. They don't know diddly about our woods, about nature. So it's pretty sad that it's all turned into a big politician game of votes and court dates. So
that's too bad.
Yeah, that hurts. So it hurts still, you know, being an Native American today, just because we're fighting for our rights.
I'm curious, like, what is one thing you'd like the world to know about your culture that maybe they don't know?
About our culture, I would say for our culture, everybody needs to be more in unity. There's too many different franchises that separates like all our whole rivers and stuff. That's why we have so many problems of issues. And I think more needs to be in unity. And same thing for fishermen. Fishermen needs like some little education classes to know what to do, because there's so many so-called guides and fishermen that go out in areas along this Deschutes here that I personally see. And for instance, like they'll be trampling on red beds. So you got guides and fly fishermen are walking along and not knowing they're walking on red beds of salmon and still
fish eggs. Yeah.
Red sides, you know, just simple educational things like that. Trash pickup, you know, stuff like that we don't see on TV anymore. We don't see Woodsy the Owl. We don't see Smokey the Bear commercials. We need things like that back, because there's absolutely no respect. There's so much trash on rivers nowadays, even the ocean. It's sad seeing those, you know. They need to bring that crying Indian back.
I remember that as a kid, the pollution Indian. Oh, yeah.
Iron Cody Eye. So he wasn't even Native American. He's Irish or Iron. What do you call it? Italian. He's an Italian actor. So he wasn't even Native.
Oh, he was?
He had a wig on.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so in the Native American world over here, our jokes, we'd have the Cody Iron Eyes, you know, we'd tease people that were non-Native.
Right.
But to answer your question, I think though, you know, our culture and our people and our heritage, we're very given people. We're very, when I mean given, is that you see all the work that me and Elke have done, and it's not only because it's our duty as First People, but we have to give back to our resources. I hate to call them our natural resources, but to our river, to our tributaries, to the land, to everything that we're out recreating and enjoying or whatever. You have to give back to it in one way or form, because if you don't, you're not going to have anything. And it's for our future generations to come. So that's always incorporated into each of our guided tours. So it's not just about let's catch the biggest and the most fish and it's just the best in the West. It's not just that. It's like we have to incorporate that we're connected to our culture and our heritage, to our roots, to our way of life, because that's who we are. If we don't have the salmon, we don't have the steelhead, we don't have the sturgeon, the smelt, the eel, the roots, the huckleberries, the trope cherries. There's so many things that we depend on, from the rain, from the mountain, the river runoff, the spring runoff, the Deschutes, all of these things that we harvest, the tule. Who are we if we don't have any of these anymore? We are no longer the first people, because we're supposed to be caretakers. And that's how you take care of it, by giving back. And that's how we do it, by donating to nonprofit organizations that are like-minded, that do conservation work, that do restoration work, that pick up garbage, that plant trees and whatnot. And and it's that's what we've been working for a couple of years, is to get trees planted, because we've suffered so many fires that we've had flash flooding and had to reschedule a few trips, because we've experienced a flash flood that we didn't think we knew we were going to get, but we were not ready. None of us as outfits was really ready for it.
Never seen it before here, most 47 years.
So
Really?
the river needs, some more stability on the embankments, and it needs more trees that are from here to be planted, and that's up to us to do. And we had to reach out to a nonprofit, because we got told no, 3 or 4 times, but that didn't make us stop. So, and we finally got the yes answer, and now it's going to happen. And it's cool, because we're finding out we're going to be working with 2 nonprofits. It's the Deschutes Middle Watershed Council and the OSU Extension, that's working with some of our youth that are 16 to 18-year-olds that are helping cut invasive plants in our huckleberry fields, because even with cutting trees down and stuff, there's invasive plants that are growing out and messing up our trees and our huckleberry bushes. I mean, there's so much awareness and education that needs to be raised, but I think we do a really good part putting all this into our guided tours. And this is what makes people say, hey man, I love the Littleleaf, and I feel like I'm part of the fam bam, because after a day of fishing, I'm like, hey, well, you were initiated into Littleleaf fishing family, welcome. And we give them a hug. They leave feeling like family. They leave educated. They leave feeling like they can do something to help make an impact in one way or another, or what have you. And at the end of the day, they found out, the Littleleafs are the voice for the voiceless.
That's wonderful.
And when Elk said we're not meant just to be a guide service, this all started falling on our laps, that you have to do it. Our ancestors are like, hey, you guys need to get the program here. And, you guys, there's a lot. And we've had to find our voices. We've had to grow into these positions and to where we are to date. It was all word of mouth. Now it's all social media, all hashtags, all keywords, fly fishing companies, red band trout editions reaching out, wanting us to come publicly speak. And they eat up all the conservation we do, but they love that we have our indigenous twist to it and say, honor our treaty of 1855. And they find out all the work that we've done when they've only heard of a few different things, but they're like, oh, wow, they turned in a railroad company. And, oh, wow, they went all the way down to Standing Rock. And, wow, they went up against Nestle and they won, And
Governor Brown.
And we spoke against the no offshore drilling against the Donald Trump and Governor Brown. Yeah, they asked us to come do that. And we even went up to Washington and oppose the oil terminals that they're doing in the coal. And a lot of people don't even know that there's a bunch of crude oil and coal transferred on the Columbian and on the Deschutes every day.
The Deschutes is the only river in Oregon that transports raw crude oil from Montana, South Dakota, North Dakota.
Huh.
So, and if it wasn't for Elk's prior experience in working with a derailment crew, all Native American derailment crew, he would have not known that our railroads were just crap down here, and he would have never turned them in. So it literally, like I said, it all fell into place, and now we know who we are, what we represent, and what we're supposed to be doing, and we'll never stop.
Sounds like a real calling.
And we did get our foot in the doors on a politician level, because not only did we meet Governor Brown, but before that we got to meet our state officials, Senator Bentz, Daniel Bonham. We got chosen to speak for our district in Warm Springs over our leaders.
Over our elected tribal council officials. When they reached out and said, you guys are leaders, we're like, oh, wait. Just for the record, we're not tribal council officials or anything like that. They're like, no, but you guys are leaders from your tribe, so you guys are leaders. And we were kind of like, whoa, we were blown away, because we didn't see ourselves as such, or what have you. We don't have that entitlement or that ego, or like, oh yeah, So
we never write our speeches down. We say it from our heads, from our heart.
Yeah, anytime we publicly speak, it comes from the heart. Like, it just automatically comes out. It all falls into place. So,
well, that's fantastic. Thanks for all the work you're doing for all of us.
It's a growing thing, you bet. It's growing. Probably our latest achievement is hooking up with the band Portugal the Man, if you heard of them. So we've been connected with them for the past couple of years. They've been real supportive of us. Zach, Eric, John, all the members. We're just in a video.
What's the name of the band?
Portugal the Man. They're from Alaska, and they live here in Portland now, along the Sandy River. And a big, strong support for the Native American, all the Native Americans across the U.S. They do a lot of donations. They go to Alaska and help for the schools, all kinds of stuff. I mean, they're super supportive for Native American communities.
That's great. Well, man, it's been really great to talk to you too, and thanks again for all the work you're doing. And thanks for being on the show.
You bet. It was a pleasure. It was an honor.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Oh, for sure. And what's the best way for people to get in touch with you, to book a trip? How does that work?
Well, we have a website, littleleafguides.com, and we also have an email address, littleleaf2012@gmail.com. And our office phone number is 541-615-0402. And our slogan is, come fish our side, you will get hooked.
Yeah, there you go. Fish our side. I love it. Well, there you go, folks. Give them a call. If you're out in Oregon and you want to get quite an experience and learn something while you're doing it, give these folks, the Littleleafs, a phone call here. And I wish you both extraordinary success in all your ventures to follow. And thank you, folks, for listening. And we'll be sure to post contact info on our Destination Angler show notes and pictures of their top fly picks on our Facebook and Instagram page. As always, you can DM me or email me with comments and suggestions at seg50@gmail.com. Hey, and if you like the show, be sure to tell a buddy. As always, our music is by our Brothers Fountain. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we will see you again soon. Tight lines, everybody.
Well, I'll go from the land to the shining sea. But I know there's more to life than what the eye can see.